This is about finding out the period, phase shift, and angular frequency of given sinusoidal function. All right, and the standard is to make everything as cosine. So let's make sure that you know the graph of the cosine first. So what does the graph of a cosine function look like? It looks like this, where this is 2 pi, right? And you see that cosine of t has period of 2 pi. And if you put a 2 in front, what that would do is it's going to compress sideways so that this graph will look like the same thing, but it completes its period by pi. In other words, anything you multiply in front of t makes the graph compressed, and therefore the period will be 2 pi divided by omega. And because the frequency is the reciprocal of period, it's going to be omega over 2 pi. Okay, now let's see what this graph is doing. Well, it's hard to see what's going on because the graph is so small, but it does give us that this point right here is 0.25 comma 0, right? And then the first maximum has coordinates 1.25 comma 3. So this point right here, the maximum is 1.25 comma 3, okay? So the distance from the horizontal distance between the midpoint to the maximum is 1.25 minus 0.25, which gives you just 1. But remember that this is a quarter of the period because one period has to do 1, 2, 3, 4 to come back, right? This is one full period. So that means our period should be 4 seconds, okay? And because frequency is the reciprocal of the period, it must be 1 over 4. And then from here, we can use the formula that omega is 2 pi times f. So since f is 1/4, you end up with 2 pi times 1/4, which is 1/2 pi. And in the web work, it's easier to just write this as pi divided by 2. Okay, it's going to accept this as the answer. Another way is to do the calculator, use the calculator, but then you have to use a lot of decimals, so this is more convenient to plug in. All right, now the fourth question. Express the displacement in the form of yt equals a cosine omega t minus gamma. And the thing is, a is easy. It's just the maximum amplitude, which reaches up to 3. Oh, but there is a curveball here. The system here is in centimeters, and this is asking for meters, so you have to convert 3 centimeters into meters, but because 1 centimeter is 0.01 meter, the amplitude A better be 0.03 centimeters, okay? So it's 0.03, and then you have cosine. We know the value of omega, which is pi over 2, right? So this is pi times t divided by 2. And now here's the problem with this. You need to figure out the gamma. But what is gamma? Well, it turns out that it's not so easy to look for the phase angle gamma just from the graph. What's easy to see is the location of the peak. That's 1.25, right? That's where this phase starts, and that value is called the phase shift. So phi, which is called the phase shift, is 1.25. But what's the relationship between phase shift and phase angle? Well, I usually use alpha instead of gamma for the phase angle, but uh, whatever that makes gamma equals to 0 gives you phi. So this has t equals to phi. So if you knew this, then you would know that omega times phi minus gamma is equal to 0, so that phi is equal to gamma over omega. Or if you use alpha for the phase angle, it would be alpha over omega. So that's a nice formula to know. And therefore, since phi is 1.25, your gamma better be omega times phi, just from here, right? And omega is pi over 2 times phi, which is 1.25. Or let's just write this as 5 over 4, right? So this is 5 times pi divided by 8, okay? So you want to put 5 pi divided by 8. Again, it's easier to write this into WebWork rather than to actually calculate it. Okay, so knowing this, now let's see what y of 0 would be. Y of 0 would be 0.03. You plug in 0 into t, so that's going to be 0. So you get negative 5 pi over 8. And I guess you really need to plug these numbers into the calculator. So let's just try it. So we need 0.03. Make sure your calculator is in radian mode because all these numbers are radians, right? And then you have cosine. Oh, I should have put multiplication. So 0.03 times cosine of 3, not 3, negative 5 times pi, which is 3.141592, and then you divide it by 8, and then you enter. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Delete that one. Enter. And you get negative 0.01148. So negative 0.01148. That's what you put in here. And for the derivative, you would differentiate this. So you would differentiate this. The derivative would be, because of the chain rule, pi over 2 will come out. So it would be 0.03 times pi over 2. And cosine becomes negative sign if you differentiate. And then pi over 2t minus 5 pi over 8. And when you plug in 0 to this, you're going to get sine of negative 5 pi over 8 times this value, and I'll leave that to you. So that's how you solve this question.